Have you ever walked into a room and felt like everyone already decided who you were before you even spoke? That was me on my first day at Lincoln High. The moment I stepped inside the hallway, I felt 100 eyes crawling over me. My name was Sultan, but in their minds, that single word meant something else, something foreign, something dangerous. I tried to stay quiet, carrying my books close, hoping no one would notice. But high school never lets you stay invisible for long. Mrs. Reynolds introduced me to the class with a smile. "Everyone, this is Sultan. He just moved here last week." Her voice was kind, but I could already see the whispers start. Jake leaned over to Ethan, muttering something that made both of them laugh. I didn't have to guess what it was. I'd heard it before. At lunch, I sat alone. The noise of laughter and trays clattering filled the cafeteria, but it all felt far away. Then came Jake's voice again, loud, sharp, meant to be heard. "Hey, Sultan, you building bombs under the lunch table or what?" The laughter that followed cut deeper than any knife could. My hands shook, but I said nothing. I stared at my food, wishing I could disappear. Later that day, Liam, a tall, quiet kid from my history class, walked over to me. "Ignore them," he said softly. "They just don't know better." His words were simple, but they felt like the first bit of air after drowning. We started walking home together after school, and for the first time, I didn't feel so alone. But that night, as I lay in bed, the question wouldn't leave my mind. Why do they hate what they don't even understand? I thought maybe it would stop one day, maybe they'd see me for who I really was. I didn't know then how far Jake would go, or how much it would change me. The next morning, something strange happened. Everyone in school seemed to know something I didn't. They stared at me, whispering louder than before. Liam avoided eye contact. And then, when I opened my locker, a small note fell out. 3 words, black ink, shaky handwriting. "Go back home." For a moment, the world around me froze. I didn't know whether to cry, shout, or laugh. But deep inside, something started to grow, not fear, not anger, but a kind of silent fire. If you've ever felt judged for something you didn't choose, then you already know that fire. And maybe, just maybe, that's why you should subscribe, because this story isn't just mine. It's for everyone who ever felt unwanted and still stood tall. Have you ever felt your heart beating so loud that it drowns out the world around you? That's what I felt when I held that note in my hand. Go back home. Those 3 words kept echoing inside me. I stood there in front of my locker, frozen, pretending to fix my books so no one could see the shaking in my hands. Jake passed by with his usual smirk. "What's wrong, Sultan?" "Someone finally told you the truth." His friends laughed, their voices bouncing off the lockers. For a second, I thought about yelling back, about throwing that note in his face. But I didn't. I just looked at him, and for a moment, that silence made him uncomfortable. He turned away first. The rest of the day was a blur. In Mrs. Reynolds' class, I couldn't focus. Every whisper felt like it was about me. Every laugh felt like it was aimed my way. I wanted to disappear, but at the same time, I wanted them to see me. Not as the label they'd given me, but as me, a person with a name, a story, a heart. When the final bell rang, Liam found me outside. "You okay?" he asked. I wanted to say yes, but the words stuck. I handed him the note instead. His jaw tightened. "Who did this?" I shook my head. "I don't know, but I think I do." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at my ceiling, replaying every laugh, every look, every insult. Somewhere in the middle of all that noise, I remembered something my father once told me. Silence is strong, but only when it has a purpose. That's when it hit me, maybe my silence had to mean something now. The next morning, I went to school early, before anyone else. I slipped the note into my pocket and walked straight into the principal's office. Mr. Carter looked up from his desk. "Sultan, is everything all right?" I placed the note on his table. "Someone put this in my locker," I said quietly. For a long moment, he didn't say anything. Then he sighed. "This is serious, son. We'll find out who did this." But as I walked out of his office, I saw Jake standing in the hallway, watching me. His grin was gone. His eyes were sharp, cold, calculating. That's when I realized this wasn't going to end with one note. That day, something inside me shifted. I wasn't just the quiet kid anymore. I was someone who had decided to stop running from their hate. If you've ever been made to feel like you don't belong, remember silence can break walls when it's backed by courage. And if you believe that too, then subscribe. Because this story isn't just about racism, it's about rising from it. Have you ever walked into a place that used to feel safe and suddenly felt like it was turning against you? That's how the hallway felt the next morning. Everyone was whispering again, but this time it wasn't just words. It was laughter. Cruel, sharp laughter. I walked to my locker slowly. The closer I got, the louder it grew. Then I saw it spray-painted in red letters across my locker door. One single word, terrorist. My heart sank. My throat went dry. For a few seconds, I couldn't even move. It wasn't a note anymore. It was written for everyone to see. I heard Jake laughing behind me. Guess they finally called it like it is, he said. Ethan laughed too, though it sounded forced, unsure. Before I could say anything, Mrs. Reynolds rushed down the hall. Who did this? She demanded, her voice shaking. No one answered. Everyone just stared, some with pity, some with fear, some trying to pretend they hadn't seen. Mr. Carter arrived minutes later. Everyone back to class, he shouted. I stood still, watching the red paint drip down my locker like blood. He turned to me. Sultan, I promise we'll handle this. But I could see in his eyes he didn't know how. Liam found me later, sitting alone behind the gym. They crossed the line, he said. We can't just let this go. I don't want revenge, I said quietly. I just want them to stop seeing me as something I'm not. But the truth was, I did want to fight back, not with fists, but with truth. That night I opened my laptop. I started typing every word I had swallowed for months. The pain, the silence, the anger, the hope. It became a letter to my classmates, to Jake, to anyone who ever looked at me and saw only a stereotype. The next morning, I printed the letter and placed copies on every desk in history class before anyone arrived. My hands trembled, but it felt right. When Jake walked in, he picked up the paper and frowned. What is this? I didn't answer. I just waited. Then Mrs. Reynolds walked in and started reading it out loud. The room went silent. My words filled the air about what it felt like to be judged, to be mocked, to be feared for something I never did. When she finished, no one said a word. Jake stared at me, and for the first time, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't hate, it was confusion. Maybe even guilt. That silence felt powerful. It wasn't weakness anymore, it was strength. If you've ever been hurt and still chose to speak your truth, then you know what that moment feels like. And if you believe that silence can turn into strength, subscribe. Because this story still isn't over, and neither is the fight for respect. Have you ever looked at the person who hurt you the most and felt sorry for them instead of angry? That's what I felt the next morning. After that letter, something changed at Lincoln High. The whispers didn't stop completely, but they got quieter. People who never looked me in the eye before now nodded when I passed. A few even said sorry, but Jake, he stayed silent. A week later, Mrs. Reynolds announced something unexpected. The school is holding an open assembly, she said, and Sultan, we'd like you to speak. For a second, I thought I misheard, speak, in front of everyone. The same people who had called me names, who had laughed at me. My stomach tightened, but then I remembered my father's word, silence is strong, but only when it has a purpose. Maybe this was my purpose. The day of the assembly arrived. The gym was full. The same red letters were still faintly visible on my locker that morning, a reminder of what had been said. But I didn't feel small anymore. I walked up to the microphone and took a deep breath. When you called me a terrorist, I began, my voice trembling, you didn't just hurt me. You hurt everyone who looks like me, everyone who gets judged before they speak. But I'm not here to make you feel guilty. I'm here because I believe you can change. The room was silent. Even Jake looked up. I came from a family that taught me to love this country, to work hard, to respect others. But no matter what I did, it was never enough for some people. Until now, because today I'm not afraid to be who I am. When I finished, there was silence again, but this time it was different. Then one person started clapping. It was Mrs. Reynolds, then Liam, then the whole gym joined in. The sound grew louder, echoing through the walls that once held my fear. After the assembly, I walked out into the hallway. Jake was waiting. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. Then he said quietly, I didn't know you'd talk like that, I shrugged. You never gave me the chance. He looked down, then back up. I'm sorry, I nodded slowly. I know, then something I never expected happened. He reached out his hand. I hesitated for a second, then shook it. Not because he deserved forgiveness, but because I needed peace. That night, as I walked home, the air felt different, lighter. I thought about that word on my locker, terrorist, and how much power it once had over me. But now, it was just paint. It would fade, but what I learned that would stay forever. If you've ever been hurt, judged, or silenced, remember your story matters. It can heal, it can teach, it can change hearts. So subscribe, because stained humanity isn't just a name. It's a voice for everyone who's ever been misunderstood, yet still chose love over hate.